The following program contains graphic language. Viewer discretion is advised.
It's the end of September 1995. In Los Angeles, it's sunny and 89 degrees. Over the weekend, thousands danced the night away at a Hollywood Bowl Latin music festival, while others go to the movies to see Seven, a psychological crime thriller starring Brad Pitt. Europe wins golf's Ryder Cup. The NFL adds a new team, the Jacksonville Jaguars. John F. Kennedy Jr.'s George magazine publishes its first edition with great fanfare. But the nation is focused on the LA County Courthouse and O.J. Simpson, waiting to hear his fate as attorneys from both sides give their closing arguments. For the families of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman, their vigil for justice is coming to an end. After 9 months of testimony, it's time for the case to go to the jury as the People versus O.J. Simpson concludes. It's called the trial of the century. It's called the People versus O.J. Simpson. It's called simply the Simpson trial. But there is nothing simple about it. At its essence, it is a search for justice in the murders of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. What it becomes is a point in history where you remember exactly where you were when you heard the verdict. I'm Roger Cossack, and this is OJ25.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Ms. Clark, on behalf of the people or the prosecution, prepared to proceed?
Yes, Your Honor, we are.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you very much. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. In this trial, just like every trial, some evidence has been presented to you that really is not relevant to answer the core question of who murdered Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown. And it's up to you, the jury, to weed out the distractions, weed out the sideshows, and determine what evidence is it that really helps me answer this question. Let me summarize for you what we have proven. We have the Bruno Magli shoe prints, all of them size 12, his size shoe, all of them consistent, going down the Bundy walk.
I observed some what appeared to be bloody shoe sole prints on the ground, on the concrete.
We have the Bundy blood trail. We have his blood to the left of the bloody shoe prints. When you got to the rear gate, did Detective Phillips point anything out to you?
Pointed out what appeared to be a blood transfer or smear on the upper rung of the gate and what appeared to be two droplets of blood on the lower inside rung of the rear gate.
We have the blood in the Bronco, his and Ron Goldman's.
The results from 31, are they clearly a mixture that is consistent with the defendant and is consistent with Mr. Galton?
Yes, it is.
We have the Rockingham blood trail up the driveway, in his bathroom, in the foyer.
Seeing that blood drop obviously triggered the fact that I'd seen what appeared to be a blood trail leaving the crime scene at Bundy.
We have the Rockingham glove.
It appeared to be somewhat moist or sticky. It appeared that parts were sticking to other parts of the glove.
There was Mark Furman, acting like a choir boy, making you believe he was the best witness that walked in here. Generally applauded for his wonderful performance. Turns out he was the biggest liar in this courtroom during this process.
You're a criminal defense attorney and you have a tough case. This is what you do. You argue the law. And if the law is against you, you argue the facts. And if the facts are against you, you raise hell and blame somebody else. When the facts and the law are against it, blame the police. Blame the prosecution. Point the finger elsewhere. Create a smoke screen. And that's what they've done in this case, ladies and gentlemen. Smoke and mirrors.
I think it's been hard for all of us to be here and to listen to all of the evidence. In this case, evidence that proves Mr. Simpson is guilty because none of us wanted to believe it. We all wanted to believe that our image of him was right. And we all know that we never knew him exactly, but we kind of felt like we did. And It's really kind of hard to have to believe that the man we saw in the movies and the commercials could do this. But he did.
So much of the essential facts in this case are just shot through with reasonable doubt. There is something wrong. There's something terribly wrong about this evidence. Somebody manufactured evidence in this case. There's missing blood. There's EDTA. There's questions, serious, deeply troubling questions. You must distrust it. You have to distrust it.
Usually, I feel like I'm the only one left to speak for the victims, but in this case, Ron and Nicole, they're speaking to you. They're speaking to you. And they're telling you who murdered them. Nicole started before she even died. Remember back in 1989, as she cried to Detective Edwards, "He's gonna kill me. He's gonna kill me."
I said, well, who is gonna kill you? She said, OJ. I said, OJ who? Do you mean the football player, OJ, the football player? She said, yes, OJ Simpson, the football player.
1990, she made a safe deposit box, put photographs of her beaten face and her haunted look in a safe deposit box along with a will. She was only 30 years old.
You told us a moment ago that you took these photographs, is that correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Would you describe for us, please, the circumstances that led to your taking these photographs?
Nicole asked me to take them for her.
How many 30-year-olds you know do that? A will, a safe deposit box? It's like writing, in the event of my death. She knew. He's gonna kill me.
This is O.J. Simpson's one day in court. By your decision, you control his very life in your hands. Treat it carefully, treat it fairly. Be fair. Don't be part of this continuing cover-up. Do the right thing, remembering that if it doesn't fit, you must acquit. That if these messengers have lied to you, you can't trust their message. That this has been a search for truth.
All right, let the record reflect that we've been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen.
Although the brutal and callous way in which Ron and Nicole were murdered may understandably make you feel sorrow, pity, even anger, it would be wrong to find the defendant guilty just because you felt sorry for them. On the other hand, although it would be completely understandable if you were to feel angry and disgusted with Mark Furman, as we all are, still it would be wrong to find the defendant guilty, not guilty, just because of that anger and disgust.
Perhaps at some time, since 1985 or 6, you addressed a member of the African-American race as a. Is it possible that you have forgotten that act on your part?
No, it's not possible.
Are you therefore saying that you have not used that word in the past 10 years, Detective Furman?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Did he lie when he testified here in this courtroom, saying that he did not use racial epithets in the last 10 years? Yes. Tell us how you feel about testifying today.
Nervous?
Is he a racist? Yes.
He said if I had my way, I'd gather all the would be gathered together and burned.
He said the only good is a dead.
Is he the worst LAPD has to offer? Yes.
They don't do anything. They don't initiate contact from 6 foot 5. It's been a perfect perception of by history.
Who said that?
Officer Mark Furman.
And that was his voice? Is that right?
Yes.
Officer Furman turned around, looked at me, and told me, I told you we'd get you.
Was the testimony that you gave at the preliminary hearing in this case completely truthful?
I wish to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege.
Have you ever falsified a police report?
I wish to assert my Fifth Amendment privilege.
Do we wish that this person was never hired by LAPD? Yes. Should LAPD have ever hired him? No.
It actually made me laugh. It was so far off the deep end, it was comical. I stole her little prize, and she was having a fit.
In fact, do we wish there were no such person on the planet? Yes.
I believe she said she wished I was never born. Wow, that hurt so bad.
The fact that Mark Furman is a racist and lied about it on the witness stand does not mean that we haven't proven the defendant guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen.
When she gets up and gives her final argument, and you understand that the prosecution goes first. So when she did that, he just jumped on the bandwagon. That's exactly what he did.
One of the things that has made this country so great is people's willingness to stand up and say, that's wrong. I'm not going to be part of it. I'm not going to be part of the cover-up. That's what I'm asking you to do. Stop this cover-up. Stop this cover-up. If you don't stop it, then who? You police the police. You police them by your verdict. It has to be stopped by you. I want to tell you about what is troubling, what is frightening, what is chilling about that Kathleen Bell letter. She goes on to say, Officer Furman went on to say that he would like nothing more than to see all gathered together and killed, burning them or bombing them. I remember that what he said was probably the most horrible thing I'd ever heard someone say. What frightened me even more was that he was a police officer, sworn to uphold the law. And now we have it. There was another man not too long ago in the world who had those same views, who wanted to burn people, who had racist views and ultimately had power over people in his country. People didn't care. People said he's just crazy, he's just a half-baked painter. And they didn't do anything about it. This man, this scourge, became one of the worst people in the history of this world, Adolf Hitler.
We have seen a man who perhaps is the worst kind of racist himself. Someone who shoves racism in front of everything. Someone who compares a person who speaks racist comments to Hitler, a person who murdered millions of people.
How do you compare Furman, who you've said was a liar and a racist, to someone responsible for the death of millions of people? Really? And I exploded over that one.
He suggests that racism ought to be the most important thing that any one of us ought to listen to in this court, that any one of us in this nation should be listening to. And it's because of racism we should put aside all other thought, all other reason, and set his murdering client free. He's a sick man, and he ought to be put away.
It's time for everybody to wake up and realize that we are in a for real world, and we have dealt with racism all our lives, every single day. And if someone cannot accept the fact that we have Mark Furmans walking around in this world who has collected all of the vital evidence, and they say that he is not important in this case, they're living in a fantasy world.
All right, we are in the midst of the final arguments. Mr. Cochran, you may continue with your argument, sir.
Thank you very kindly, Your Honor. A police officer in the street, a patrol officer, is the single most powerful figure in the criminal justice system. He can take your life. He can do it right there and justify it. That's what happened in this case. They made a judgment. Everything else after that was going to point toward O.J. Simpson.
Is there any doubt in your mind that when you went to Rockingham, Mr. Simpson was not a suspect?
There's no doubt in my mind. Mr. Simpson was no more of a suspect at that point than you were, Mr. Shapiro.
By this time in your investigation, having in mind the blood that you discovered on the Bronco and the glove that you discovered in the alleyway, had Mr. Simpson become a suspect?
I think there was a remote possibility, but nothing was solid, no.
A remote possibility?
Yes.
If you can't trust the messengers, watch out for their message. Van Adder, the man who carries the blood. Furman, the man who finds the glove.
I maintained custody of the blood sample and turned it over to the criminalist.
Can you please describe the appearance of the glove, sir?
It appeared to be a dark leather glove.
The integrity of this system is at stake. You cannot convict when the core of the prosecution's case is built on perjurious testimony of police officers, unreliable forensic evidence, and manufactured evidence.
The defense, specifically Johnny Cochran and Barry Scheck, had a brilliant close in that the ultimate reasonable doubt question was raised throughout. And they had lots to work with.
Mr. Fung, are you having some trouble keeping this story straight about getting the blood sample from Detective Van Adder from Rockingham?
Sustained.
You got to his bedroom. You see any socks on the floor at the foot of his bed?
No.
When you told us under oath that you had seen these blood spots on the rear gate at Bundy, yet no photographs were taken of those blood spots on June 13th, 1994. Would you consider that a mistake?
I would call that a mistake.
So are you telling us that you took blood out of that vial to do work and made no entry anywhere of the withdrawal of that blood?
The fact that blood was removed is implied by the fact that I did work on it and received results from it.
Now, with regard to these socks that you had seized, you didn't see any blood on those socks either, did you?
I didn't get close enough to examine them.
There. How about that, Mr. Fung?
It's not so because they say so. That's just rhetoric. We, this afternoon, are talking about the facts. And so it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit. The defining moment in this trial, the day Mr. Darden asked Mr. Simpson to try on those gloves, and the gloves didn't fit.
And Mr. Simpson's indicating that his fingers are all the way. You just go ahead and run.
All right. Thank you, counsel.
Remember these words. If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
Absolutely brilliant closing argument, but that line, if it doesn't fit, you must acquit, it was about much more than just the glove. It was about all the evidence in the case, an amazing theme, incredibly powerful inside the courtroom.
I was thinking last night about this case and their theory and how it didn't make any sense and how it didn't fit and how something is wrong. And it occurred to me how they were going to come here and stand up here and tell you how O.J. Simpson was going to disguise himself. He was going to put on a knit cap and some dark clothes, and he was going to get in his white Bronco and this recognizable person and go over and kill his wife. That's what they want you to believe. That's how silly their argument is. And I said to myself, maybe I can demonstrate this graphically. Let me show you something. This is a knit cap. I'm going to put this knit cap on. And you've been seeing me for a year. If I put this knit cap on, who am I? I'm still Johnny Cochran with a knit cap. And if you look at O.J. Simpson over there, and he has a rather large head, O.J. Simpson in a knit cap from 2 blocks away is still O.J. Simpson. It's no disguise. It's no disguise. It makes no sense. It doesn't fit. If it doesn't fit, You must acquit.
It would seem that all that's left to tell in the final episode of OJ25 is the verdict. It is not. What happens in the jury room and to those jurors during the 37 weeks of this trial is as important as anything said by any witness, prosecution or defense. You're about to go inside that room and see for yourself.
I have just a few final instructions that I need to give to you before you start your deliberations on this matter.
The jury went out after closing arguments, I think it was a Friday. They had the instructions read to them, then they were going to come back on Monday and start their deliberations.
Each of you must decide the case for yourself, but should do so only after discussing the evidence and the instructions with the other jurors.
I already had a preconceived idea in my head which way I was going to lean anyway, which was going to be not guilty, and it was only going to be based off of, I think there was reasonable doubt presented in the case.
Do not decide any question in a particular way because a majority of the jurors, or any of them, favor such a decision.
I'm sitting there thinking to myself, but what if I'm the only person that sees it this way? Because again, I had no idea what my fellow jurors thought about the case.
I'm going to ask that you step into the jury room to proceed with your election of a foreperson.
We could be here for days, for months in this deliberation process because again, if I'm the lone guy holding out for not guilty, then will I be able to sustain all the arrows that are going to be slung at me at that point in time?
As soon as you have done that, would you notify the bailiffs by pressing on our buzzer 3 times here that you've reached a determination as to the foreperson?
As the court knows, this is a part of the case where one does not know how long it will take. And this has been a very long trial. And because counsel have been tied up in this matter for some time, maybe they have a verdict already and we can go home. Maybe that's it.
Someone says, let's take a straw vote first, just to see where people's minds were at. And so it could have been within the first 15, 20 minutes of the time we walked in there, I would say. The vote that came back was 10-2. When the 10-2 vote came in, I got up and I went to the restroom and I kind of did like, oh my God, we're almost out of here. Because we came back 12-0 so fast, I think somebody decided, oh, well, yeah, maybe we need to look at some other testimony in order to try to legitimize that we're sitting here deliberating in earnest. Yeah, maybe we should have the limo driver's testimony reread to us.
There was a lot of speculation. Oh, they're looking at the timeline and they're trying to understand what the timeline is.
You see that white Bronco in this photograph, sir?
Yes.
Was that white Bronco there at the time you drove by at about 10:22?
I didn't see it.
It was a pivotal time in the timeline itself in making the case of whether Mr. Simpson was home already when he pulled up or whether he just came home when he got there.
Madam Court Reporter, would you please commence?
Direct examination by Ms. Clark. Question. Good morning, Mr. Park. Answer. Good morning. Question. Sir, as of June...
In my mind, I'm thinking, well, why are we doing this? But of course, I'm just sitting there and I'm letting these people do what they want to do at that point.
$253 days of trial, 156 witnesses brought in for this jury, and they deliberate for less than 4 hours.
Ladies and gentlemen, while we were taking our brief recess, Mrs. Robertson advised me that you buzzed 3 times and indicated that after receiving the verdict forms that you have reached a verdict in this case. Is that correct, Madam Foreman? Yes. All right.
When the jury reaches a verdict, it is always a nerve-wracking experience. No matter what side of the case you're on, no matter how much you truly believe in your case, no matter how strong you think your case is, it's an unsettling feeling because you don't know what the jury's going to do.
You've been instructed by the judge to deliberate. You got 9 months of testimony, right? 4 hours, 4.5 hours, you come back and say, we got a verdict. By the way, 1.5 hours of the 4.5 hours was for lunch.
I'm hearing how the deliberation process was a farce, which I think I always felt it, but to hear them admit to it is pretty validating.
I made it a point to be the person that stood up in the room and I says, hey, look, this is a very serious situation we're in here. I said, now is the time for anyone with a differing opinion to start voicing your opinions. And there was silence in the room. No one spoke up for themselves. These people were too beat down to even try to fight for their own conviction of how they really felt about, why they voted the way that they did. And I think they start realizing, oh, well, we're this close to leaving, I guess, hey, forget it.
I was pissed. And I'm sitting here thinking, this is a life or death situation. This is, you've got justice in the palms of your hands and it was a joke to all of you. I mean, it's disgusting.
Everybody expected a long deliberation after such a long trial. And so many of the attorneys were gone. Johnny Cochran, I think, was in San Francisco. I don't believe Marcia Clark was there. Some of the families weren't there. And the judge said he was going to hold the verdict till the next morning at 10 a.m. This gave everyone time to come back to the courthouse. It also gave the LAPD time to go on tactical alert and bring more police officers and get ready for any potential unrest.
I don't want to ever downplay the significance of what actually happened here, that these two people were murdered, Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman. I never want to undermine that significance at all. And I've always had a problem with not being able to provide their families closure in this case. But definitely, yes, it was a situation where I felt it happened too fast.
"10 a.m. Tuesday, October 3rd, 1995. Thousands of people are outside the criminal courts building in downtown Los Angeles, and millions of people around the world are glued to their TVs to hear the jury's verdict in the People of California versus Orenthal James Simpson.
The morning of the verdict, I remember we had a caravan of people driving to the courthouse and going along the 101 freeway. There was an overpass that someone had taken a huge white sheet and wrote, like, Goldman's "We Love You," and threw it over the side of the bridge. That was pretty awesome. I stopped short of the first door and I just paralyzed in fear. I just couldn't bring myself to go in there.
Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. I'm going to ask that you carefully listen to the verdicts as they are being read, as after the verdicts have been read, you will be asked if these are your verdicts.
We believed that it was a not guilty verdict. We had been told that the verdict form came back very quickly. The sheriff's department, which took control of OJ at the jail, were also with the jurors. I recall correctly, they said to OJ, pack your stuff up.
All right, Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury? Mrs. Robertson.
Superior Court of California, County of Los Angeles, in the matter of the people of the state of California versus Orenthal James Simpson, case number BA097211. We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant Orenthal James Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony upon Nicole Brown Simpson, a human being, as charged in count 1 of the information.
And you could hear the people in the streets reacting from inside the courtroom.
I just wanted to get out. And I just remember sitting there just like this and asking the bailiff, and she goes, "I can't let you go." I just wanted to run and be free of all of it.
I think they first read Nicole's verdict, and in my head, it's, well, I haven't read Ron's yet, almost thinking that there could be a different verdict for both.
We, the jury, in the above entitled action, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187A, a felony, upon Ronald Lyle Goldman, a human being, as charged in count 2 of the information.
First, Nicole, not guilty. And you could hear the Browns. And then it was Ron, not guilty. And the Goldmans just collapsed.
And 1 or more crimes of murder of the first or second degree to be not true.
Somewhere deep inside me, I had to have believed that he was guilty because my reaction was shocking. I had to have believed somewhere that they were going to come back with a guilty verdict, but I don't think I walked in there feeling confident.
I didn't watch it. My wife did. I was in another room. It went down, and she called to me and she goes, "It's not guilty, and they're going to blame all this on you."
And then to hear not guilty, really?
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, is this your verdict? So say you one, so say you all. Juror number 1, as to count 1, is this your verdict? Juror number 2, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
My mom just sat there and she goes, okay, girls, we need to go home and get the kids because he's a free man. We were kind of like in this, peculiar situation where it's very bittersweet. Like you want justice, but kind of you don't because you've got these 2 kids and this is their dad. And no matter what, blood is thicker than water.
Juror number 4, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes. There was elation on Simpson's face. I don't think he expected it.
Juror number 6, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Yes. They look stunned and amazed at this verdict.
Juror number 11, as to count 1, is this your verdict?
Marcia Clark even looks a little angry here.
As to count 1, is this your verdict?
I was surprised, and part of my surprise had to do with the fact that I felt we were much closer as a society than apparently we were.
As soon as the verdict was announced, most, not all, but most African-American students cheered and were very, very happy. And most non-African-American students were appalled. They couldn't believe it.
Guilty! Guilty! Guilty!
The racial division was so great that people saw the facts differently. They saw things through the prism of race.
Go find the killer! OJ is innocent!
He did it! He's guilty! Guilty, guilty, guilty!
Obviously, they had the reasonable doubt. I mean, that's what the whole system, it sounds like the justice system's been served. They had a reasonable doubt.
Juror number 1, is to count 2, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 2, is to count 2.
And then on the other side of the table, there's Kardashian again, wiping his eyes. Again, he's not celebrating like the other members of the defense team. To me, that really stands out.
As to count 2, is this your verdict?
Yes.
Juror number 7, as to count 2, is this your verdict? Juror number 8, as to count 2, is this your verdict? Juror number 9, as to count 2, is this your verdict? Juror number 10, as to count 2, is this your verdict?
I remember feeling very quickly that I needed to go to the gravesite and tell my brother, and I think I felt that we had let him down in some way. I don't think that there are adequate words to describe what that feeling feels like.
This is so heartbreaking. That's the image that's in my mind.
It felt like everybody was crying. O.J. Simpson's son was hunched over and he was sobbing. The Goldmans were crying, the Browns were crying. O.J. Simpson's mother was there, his sisters. And there was just so much emotion and tension inside that little courtroom.
All right, the defendant having been acquitted of both charges, he is ordered transported to an appropriate sheriff's facility and released forthwith. All right, we'll stand in recess.
What I learned also about this particular trial is that when you can pay for good attorneys, you can actually probably buy yourself out of a guilty verdict. And I think that's what happened here.
The jury was discharged. They went out the back of the courtroom. We had juror number 6 make sure we were all aware of how he felt with this Black Power salute.
And I put the fist up is to say, try and enjoy your life and do something practical with yourself. Because I felt like he had been given a gift with this acquittal.
This prosecution team didn't lose today. I deeply believe that this country lost today.
I think about Ron every day. I think about what he could be doing, what we could be sharing with him, that our life would be totally different because he would be part of it. It's there every day. You can't get rid of it. It's not something you want to get rid of, but it's there. It's going to be there till the day I die.
The grief and loss that someone feels when someone is taken from them, there's the confusion, there's the denial, the disbelief, the shock, the anger, the what ifs, the yearning that doesn't go away. 25 years later, I still feel it as fresh as I did.
I would much rather have my sister in my life than do these interviews, believe me. But I can't bring her back. Nicole was and is still in my heart a beach girl, a little surfer. She was a mom. That woman was my sister. She was awesome.
Everyone here has put in 110%, given their all for everyone, for justice, for the families of the victims, in the effort to see that the lives of Ron and Nicole were not thrown away.
I'm not bitter. I'm not angry. But I'd also like to thank the lawyers on our prosecution team. I am honored to have
for the Browns and the Goldmans, we're not going to give up. And for Ron and Nicole, we'll never forget you, ever. Thank you.
There was a philosopher, Santayana, if I recall, who talked about what happens when we fail to heed the lessons from the past. And I think the Simpson case, in many, many respects, provides us as trial lawyers, as law enforcement officers, judges, and the general public with a lot of lessons, and hopefully, systemically, that we do things better.
A statement from my father. I'm relieved that this part of the incredible nightmare that occurred on June 12, 1994 is over. My first obligation is to my young children, who will be raised the way that Nicole and I had always planned. My second obligation is to my family and to those friends who never wavered in their support. But when things have settled a bit, I will pursue, as my primary goal in life, the killer or killers who slaughtered Nicole and Mr. Goldman. I can only hope that someday people will come to understand and believe that I would not, could not, and did not kill anyone.
I would say that if it had not been Nicole, but if it had been OJ's first wife, who was an African-American woman, it probably would not have commanded the same amount of attention.
Newspaper headlines reflect the racial divide in the reaction to the jury's verdict. And Simpson defense attorney Robert Shapiro gives this shocking alternate view of the defense strategy to ABC's Barbara Walters during a primetime special.
Would you work again on a case with Johnny Cochran?
No.
Would you work on a case again with Eckley Bailey?
I will not talk to Eckley Bailey again. My position was always the same, that race would not and should not be a part of this case. I was wrong. Not only did we play the race card, we dealt it from the bottom of the deck.
Race plays a part of everything in America, and we need to understand that. It was introduced by this witness, Furman. This stuff about playing a race card is preposterous.
So this is what I will be remembered for. So be it. There's nothing I can do about it. I can't apologize for being a good detective that day. I won't lower myself to grovel about if I'm a racist or I'm not.
I feel that race is the only explanation for the anger that exists today.
That's just the reality of the world that we live in, which is all the reason that many of us who are, no matter what our business might be, we're still activists because we know that there's such a just blatant injustice that's going on as it relates to black people.
People still feel strong emotional reactions to the acquittal.
What it indicated to me is the magnitude of how badly the verdict was received by people. Some guy comes up to me and goes, "How dare you? You are just a really low-life piece of and all of this," and he was just disparaging me.
Life is not a bed of roses. This is a rough, dirty game, and this is the way it plays out.
We have lost our belief in the justice system in this case because we haven't let it go.
You will never have a trial that captivates the entire nation in a moment like this. The world has changed.
It still resonates 25 years later and still feels modern in some ways.
All these people are going to stick to this story. Cops all bad, cops plant evidence. What else can I tell you? You can believe what you're going to believe.
And why people think he did, for sure. Who else could have done it? I mean, I could answer that question, though. We don't know.
Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
Having us locked up like this all this time is not going to be beneficial to the outcome that I think most people would have wanted.
This trial, I think, whetted people's appetites for reality TV. They became hooked on true crime. They became hooked on celebrity crime, and there became an unquenchable thirst for tawdry information about people who were once heroes, who were then cut down either through their own actions or through other people's actions. And once you turn on that faucet, it's tough to turn it off.
I had the support of so many people all over the world, and I know that prayer of the righteous prevaileth much.
If he did it, someday he's going to have to answer to his maker. But if he didn't do it, look what we have done, not only to him, but to his entire family.
Mirror. But in truth, it's still not behind us. Perhaps it never will be. I'm Roger Cossack, and this is OJ25.